Alright, and here we are for yet another day. We're back on Simic, which we haven't done since the Tetiover episode, but this one's not playing lands. Instead, it's playing a bunch of artifact creatures because our commander is the battery bearer. So this pretty much makes it so once he's on the field, all our creatures are Power Stone tokens, meaning we can tap in to add a colorless mana, but the mana can't be spent to cast any non-artifact spell. But since we're only playing artifact spells, 90% of it is going to always be able to make something. And then whenever we cast an artifact spell with mana value 6 or greater, we get to draw a card as an added bonus. So it's kind of a wacky ramp then that makes all the creatures ramping into also ramp itself, so we can play a bunch of just really big artifacts. So our land package is pretty basic. It's pretty much the basic dual lands, the command towers, forest islands, Simic, growth chamber. We're also playing the artifact lands because we have a kind of sub-affinity theme, so there's no real harm in playing them. And we're playing the dig site because we can pretty much surveil every time because the power stones can be used for abilities, and this is one of them. They only can't be used for non-artifact spells, so like we can't cast our commander with them, but pretty much anything, abilities, extra costs can be paid, we just can't cast spells with that mana. So because of that, we can surveil pretty easily if we leave this untapped with our creatures that are also untapped. And then we're also playing the Tron lands because we're all playing mostly artifact creatures, so the colors does not matter too much, and then having access to potentially 3 lands together on the battlefield equaling 6 lands is very good. Our mana rocks are also all pretty basic, the Arcane Signet, Bonner's Ornament. The ones that are interesting are the Everflowing Chalice, since we have so many ways to make extra mana, we can multi-kick it pretty well to make a lot of charge counters on this. With this taps would add a colorless mana for each charge counter you put on it, so this can become a very massive mana rock for pretty little effort. Antenna Revealing is another one we'll be playing because it has a good ability, so if we can play 4 and tap it, look at the top card of a library. That card can be put on the battlefield tap, but if you don't, you can put it on the bottom of your library. So it's a way to scry, and then if it's a land, we get an extra added bonus to just putting it directly on the battlefield if we have this untapped. Magnifying Glass, another one we just have to kind of have draw power because we can pay 4 and tap it to investigate. And since we're going to have so much mana to make, especially with our commander out, we're playing these kind of cards because they can give us pretty much a value basically for free. We are still playing some traditional mana dorks because our commander is not always going to be on the field, so we're playing a Copper Mirror, can tap for green, and then the 3 elves that can tap for also green. Our ramp passage is also very basic: Cultivate, Explore, Farseed, Growth Spiral, Economist Reach, Nature's Lore, and Rampant Growth. Very basic stuff, but Expedition Map is the more interesting one because it lets us search for any land card, so this lets us search out for our Tron lands in particular, or also any utility that we might want at any given time. You're only playing 1 Nature's Claim. You always want to have like 1, 2, a couple remove spells for your artifact and gems. You never know when you're going to get hit by an obulate. And we are playing a couple cards that do make actual power stones around just acting like power stones. The Argothian Opportunist, ETBs, you make a tap power stone token. Same with the Colorless Rock. Stone Lesson is a draw card. You draw 2 cards, discard a card, and then create a tap power stone token with instant speed, so we can do this at the end steps. And it's Stone Retrieval Unit, just ETBs, you make a tap power stone token. There's not too many of these because there's not too many at common, and there's not too many worth running. But these are the ones, I think these are actually all the ones we can actually be running. I could be wrong, but these are the best ones we can be running. Okay, we are playing a couple artifact payoffs, Golem Foundry probably being the biggest. Whenever we cast our artifact spell, which is almost half our deck, we get a charge counter, and then we can move 3 charge counters to put a 3/3 colorless golem onto the battlefield. So we'll be able to make a lot of golems with this because we have so many artifacts to be casting. Rush Relics pretty much makes it so as long as we have 3 more artifacts, it is a 5/5 for just 4 mana. So it's a very nice card to have, especially one we can cast pretty easily. And then we have a Thundersteel Colossus, an artifact that's a 7-drop, that's a Trample Haster. Because we have all our creatures who are going into essentially become mana dorks themselves, we can play these cards super easily and super quickly. And now onto the meat of the deck, the artifact creatures, which makes up like half the deck. We have the Accomplished Automaton, which is one of our ones that are actually over 6 mana, so we draw a card when we do cast this with our command on the field. And with ETBs, you can put a 1/1 counter on it or make a 1/1 token. We're playing pretty much all the common arcbounds, all creatures are modular, so they pretty much enter with 1/1 counters equal to the modular cost, and then when they die, we can put it on any other artifact creature. And since we're only playing mostly artifact creatures, they pretty much guarantee the counters are gonna go somewhere. So Booster is module 3, Hybrid is module 2 with haste, Stinger is module 1 but it has flying, Wanderer has Sunburst, so it enters with 1/1 counters equal for each mana color spent to cast it, and then Worker, which is module 1. We have Battler Golem, which makes it so it doesn't untap during the untap step, but whenever an artifact comes into play, it gets untapped, so since we're only playing artifacts, it's going to be very rare for us to stay tapped. Boulder Branch Golem is one of our big payoffs from the Brothers War, which pretty much ETBs, we gain life equal to its power, so it's pretty commonly going to come down as a 6/5, but at the pinch we can only pay 4 mana to make it come down as a 3/3, and we still get the effect off. Gentleland Dragon is a 4/4 flyer. Chrome Steed, a 2/2 of Metalcraft, so you have 3 more artifacts, it becomes a 4/4, which since we have so many artifacts, it's always going to be happening. Depth Charge Colossus can be a 9/9 creature for 9. It doesn't untap during the untap step, but we only have to pay 3 to untap it, and since we have so much ways to make mana, that's not even too big of an issue. Jewel Scanner pretty much can't be the target of spell's ability as long as we control another artifact creature, so pretty much has Shroud as long as we have an artifact creature, and almost our entire deck is that. Ethereum Sculptor is going to discount our artifacts, as is Foundry Inspector, all by 1, so they both on the field we get our artifacts discounted by 2, which is very, very nice, because that discounts all the creatures. Frogmite's one of our Infinity payoffs, so pretty much we can cast it free 99% of the time. Hexblade's Golem, just a 5/7 artifact, so it's also, since it has mana value 6 or greater, it's one of our draw cards. Iron Apprentice enters battlefield with a 1/1 counter, and then if it dies, you can move that 1/1 counter to another creature. Iron League Steed's a 4-drop with Fabricate 1, so when this creature enters the battlefield, you can either put a 1/1 counter or to make it a token. It also has haste, so it's pretty much either a 3/3 haster or it gives us another thing to ramp with. Alchemist Gargoyle is a 1-drop with a 0/3, but we can pay 4 to give a +2, +0, and flying. And since we have so many ways to pump into this, you can make this thing really massive with all our creature and ramp we got going on. Living Gargoyle, just a easy to cast 4/4 flyer. Maelstrom Colossus, just a cascade, so we can cascade into hopefully something big. Also gives us a Battery Bearer trigger to draw a card. Meoso Crab's one of our only counterspell interactions, but we're mostly playing it for itself. It has Ward 3 and it's a 7-drop, meaning so we can draw with Battery Bearer. Reinforcer, another affinity for artifact payoffs, and most of the time, since our entire thing is artifacts, we're always going to be able to cast it almost for free, if not for free. Mere Scrappling, we can sacrifice to put a 1/1 counter on the target creature, and it itself is a 1/1, so we can keep it around. It pretty much has essentially as a mana dork, as long as we have a commander, and we can always sacrifice it to give something else a 1/1 counter whenever we need. Only Thought is another way. We're playing pretty much the cards that cost literally nothing, like Ornithopter, because these become mana dorks for 1 mana, as long as we have a commander, which is relatively easy to cast. Pathetic Wanderer is a 5/5 trampler that also draws a card with Battery Bearer. Phyrexian Walker is the exact same thing as Ornithopter. Prophet of the Peak enters the battlefield, you scry 2, and it's a 6-drop, so we draw a card. Razor Fiend Rinder, it gets +2/+2 as long as you have 3 more artifacts, which again we're always going to have, so it's more often not a 6/6, but it's a 4/4 if we cast this really, really early, somehow. Revolving Keep is a 5/7 with Defender, but we can pay 7 to make it a 7/7 with Trample, and can attack as if it didn't have Defender. So normally this card's really bad, but because we have so much way to dump mana into things, we can make a 7/7 with Trample very easily, especially what we can do every turn is not the worst thing in the world. Lush Goliath is one of the big payoffs from Brothers War, a 10/10 reach Trampler for 10 mana, but because we have so many ways to make this, all our creatures are mana dorks, we have the ramp because we're in Simic, we can cast this pretty significantly easily, which is very cool. Scorn Effigy, we can control it for 0, so for 2 mana we can cast this for 0 at any point. Alternatively, we can just drop it down for 3 mana if we ever want to. So it's like Companion, ETBs, it makes a token, but it pretty much makes 2 mana dorks for the price of 1. Soldier's Companion, it has affinity for artifacts, so we can cast it for free. Alternatively, if we ever need to tutor for an artifact land, we have this in the pocket. Spire Golem, affinity for islands, since we're in Sim, we're going to be playing a lot of islands, so we can cast this pretty cheaply, plus it's a 2/4 flying artifact creature. Sans Throne Guard gives us mana on the ETBs, and it's an artifact creature, so we can do that just for 5 mana. Silverclad Serpent can't attack unless you control another artifact, since we're always going to have, that's not hardly an issue. Tangle Golem has affinity for forest, and since again we're in Sim, we're going to have a lot of forest, that's not too uncommon to cast this for very cheaply, if not free. Thundering Tendodon can be cast for 4 mana essentially with an extra 4 license. It has Phyrexian mana and a 5/4 Trampler that only costs 4 mana in total. Very powerful, especially in this deck where we can do it very easily. With that, Automaton pretty much can be dump a lot of our mana into it to put 1/1 counters on it because it only needs 3 and a green to get 1/1 counters, and since we have so much way to make mana, we can put a multiple 1/1 counters on it in just 1 turn doing end steps. And lastly, Warforged Golem, which has Convoke, so our creatures can help by paying 1, but all the creatures kind of Convoke already on their own. So it's not too relevant of an effect when our commander's out, but when we don't have a commander, all creatures still can be used essentially as Meadows to bring this guy out. And that is the deck. I like Power Stones. I like this commander a lot. I thought it was a really cool commander, so I wanted to build one kind of around it. So it's using pretty much exclusively artifact creatures. Like you might notice, like our creature pool, it's pretty much all colorless. We have very little cards that actually care about colors. Pretty much just our mana rocks and our ramps. Pretty much the only time colors are going to matter for us is for our ramp cards, as well as our mana dork cast, as well as our commander cast. So we're still playing some of them. But for the most part, all colors don't matter too much. That's why I'm not playing like stuff like the Fetchlands from New Capenna, or like the Evolving Wild and stuff like that. Anyways, that is the deck. I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you all for watching. If you want to play Pauper Commander, there's a link in the description to a Discord server with a very active Pauper Commander community with a lot of very cool people in it, as well as the list to this deck. And I'll see you tomorrow.